I'd like to introduce Bruce Campbell, the Director of the Climate Change, Agriculture and Food Security Program at CGIAR. And Bruce is ready to go.
So, from the world of the design to a village in India, I'm going to talk about climate smart villages. It's a community approach to adaptation and mitigation in the agricultural sector. So, agriculture gives 30%, almost 30% of greenhouse gas emissions, and it's one of the most impacted by climate change. So why adapt? I'm going to look at rice in India, huge consumption of rice, and a key part of the cultural life of India. So how will rice yield be impacted by climate change? How will the production happen? I'm a scientist, so I'm a nerd, so I must show you one graph at least. This is the yield of rice. Under climate change, we expect a 5% decrease in the next 2020-2050. But if we adapt, you see that we can get a 20 to 25% increase. It's very similar for wheat and maize. If you look at wheat over here, a huge decrease, but if we adapt, we can get something. Same for maize. So what are the climate smart villages? What are they about? They're trying to do two things. To do climate change adaptation to the future climate, to ensure food security, and to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, so to do mitigation. The priority is adaptation and food security. So what is a climate smart village? It's all about new technologies and practices. It's about climate information services, farmers getting information about the climate. It's about local knowledge and institutions, farmers, groups, and it's about local development plans. Who takes part in these villages? It's the farmers themselves, it's the private sector of buyers and input suppliers, it's the rural ICT companies, the insurance companies, it's the Met agencies giving the farmers forecasts, and the local governments, and it's even some of our my sort of people, researchers. The whole approach is participatory. This means that we ask the farmers what they want and we offer them options in the planning, and they also measure the success of the venture. So we have many meetings like this discussing what happens. So this is an example of one of the issues. To get rid of the residue, farmers burn the residue, and so the carbon dioxide goes up in the air instead of into the soil. So we try and introduce technologies that get it into the soil. Climate smart agriculture often comes with extra labor. And where does the labor fall on? It often falls on women. And so there's a whole effort to try and look for labor-saving devices in these areas. Weather-based agro-advisory. So this means that farmers are getting forecasts on their cell phones through SMSs so that they know when to plant. They're also getting information on pests, fertilizers, and market prices. And it's not only cell phones, it's radio, local newspapers, TV. Here's an example of a farmer who lives in a remote area but who's insured. His crop is insured. If the temperature goes too high, or if the rain goes too low, he automatically gets a payout. No complicated insurance paperwork to do. Climate change adaptation is a lot about knowledge and capacity. So there's these sorts of exercises with women farmers on technologies, but there's also 1,500 women leaders being trained about climate change and what they can do in their local groups. It's also about involving the youth. So there's a lot of modeling, there's a lot of SMS type things, and the youth just love these sorts of things, so we get the youth very involved in the program as well. So we have a single village, but it's pointless having a tiny spot in the whole globe. So we do a lot of things about scaling up. This is, for example, a women's group doing participatory video, and then they take the video from their village to other villages. For example, in those when they're training the women leaders. So here's a summary. Climate smart villages, you deal with the weather, you deal with the water, for example, dealing with aquifer recharge. You deal with carbon, trying to put trees in the landscape through agroforestry or conservation tillage, putting carbon into the soils. Nitrogen, instead of the nitrogen going into the air as nitrous oxides, it's a bad greenhouse gas, trying to make sure that you only use as much as the plant needs. Dealing with energy issues, and perhaps most important is knowledge in adaptation. So farmer to farmer learning in a whole lot of ways of spreading knowledge and understanding. I've mostly just talked about this piece. This is the participatory research and capacity building that occurs in the villages. But then we also have scientists doing modeling and working with data in order to try and work out what kind of technologies you can bring to a particular area. There's also working with a policy analysis to get these things spread further. I've talked about South Asia. Our program is global, and so we have around 6 climate-smart villages in each of these locations. Recently in South Asia, a state government says they want to do it with 1,000 villages. So this is scaling it up to the next step. That's where you can contact me in the future if you want, on our website. And we've also got a geographical site, a website, this one over here, where you can see blogs, videos, stories from the field. Thanks very much.